defense attorney. Use common sense. What's up, space pirates? This is your admiral, the genially judgmental Dr. Disaster. And until quite recently, I was a massive Nintendo fanboy. And don't get me wrong, I still love their franchises and most of their games these days, but I have become quite disillusioned with them as a company over the past few years.
Oh, why are you like this?
One of the most illuminating things that happened this past year was how Nintendo was the one that started this trend of raising prices on video games industry-wide by making Mario Kart World $80. Though, it is worth noting that they seem to have backed down in recent months, with Donkey Kong Bonanza being moved down to $70. I guess Nintendo realized that this price raising was not a popular move.
Alright, so I made a teensy mistake.
But the greed and overbearing nature of this Goliath company has been on display for some time now, for anyone who wants to see it. The Palworld lawsuit is a prime example of what I'm talking about. This is a game, Palworld, that has been wildly successful, but since it bears a resemblance to Pokemon, Nintendo seized on the opportunity to sue them and get them shut down, getting patents for old gaming mechanics like flying mounts and using them as a cudgel against Palworld. It is quite clear that this is a greedy bully of a company with no remorse.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money!
With that in mind, it is unsurprising to hear that Nintendo has just patented another very basic game mechanic, the ability to summon creatures and fight for you. In their misguided efforts to attack Palworld, they have patented this. Theoretically, now that they have patented this mechanic, there are a lot of games that they could sue. I don't think it would work, mind you, but if they were serious about wanting to preserve their intellectual work, then they would sue everyone who has a game that summons creatures. But they won't do it because we all know that Palworld is their only target, and the fact that they are summoning up new patents in order to try to win some leverage in this case tells us just how weak and flimsy their claims really are. I think that Nintendo's real goal is to bleed pocket pair of money by dragging this process on as long as possible. So I find myself looking at them and thinking,
You bastard!
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I've had a lot of people tell me recently that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure that you check on that. And there's been a lot of talk recently about restricted mode being automatically enabled for a lot of users on YouTube, which would cut you off from a lot of your favorite channels. So don't forget to check into that as well and turn it off if it has been turned on. In any case, let's take a look at this Nintendo patent, which is patently absurd. This article here is from Video Games Chronicle, and it lays out everything that has been learned about this patent. It says here, as spotted by Games Fray, Nintendo was granted a patent last week which covers the action of summoning another character and making them battle on the player's behalf. Specifically, the patent describes a situation where a console or other system is being used to run a video game from storage. The player controls a character in a virtual space. the player can perform an input command to make a sub-character appear, i.e. summon another character. If there's an enemy where the sub-character appears, the player can control a battle between the sub-character and the enemy. If there's no enemy where the sub-character appears, the sub-character will automatically move around. The player can move the sub-character to a different location on the field, and if an enemy is there, they can control a battle between the sub-character and the enemy. The most obvious example of this patent in action is a Pokemon game, where a player can summon Pokemon and use them to battle other Pokemon on their behalf. So, think about all of the games that use this mechanic, or at least something that resembles that. Final Fantasy, Digimon, Persona, South Park, Stick of Truth, and even World of Warcraft, to some extent, uses a summon mechanic that at least kind of resembles the patent that Nintendo has recently secured. But they aren't going to come after all of those games because Nintendo is just really butthurt by what Palworld has done, and apparently they don't have to come after those other games in order to preserve their patent. As it says in this same article from Video Games Chronicle, whereas trademark law says that a company could lose its trademark if it doesn't challenge any infringements, this isn't the case with patents. While Nintendo has patented this mechanic, it can choose not to pursue any other company that decides to use it, and only do so when it feels its own IP is being threatened. This was the case with Palworld, which has seen accusations of plagiarizing from the Pokemon games ever since its release in early 2024. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company filed a lawsuit against Pocket Pair in Japan last year, alleging that Palworld infringes on 3 patents that are related to monster-catching gameplay, including summoning pals by throwing pal spheres and using pals as vehicles like gliders. Yeah, they are going to add this particular mechanic, summoning characters and having them fight for you. They will absolutely add that to the pile of patents that they are claiming that Palworld violated. But here's the thing about this particular patent: Nintendo should not own this particular patent because they categorically did not invent it originally. They did not release the first game with this mechanic in it. There may be other examples besides this one that I'm just not thinking of, but all the way back in 1990, the game Final Fantasy III was released, and that was the first Final Fantasy game with summons added to it. Pokemon was not released until 1996 in Japan, so if this patent is used as the basis for a cease and desist or for monetary damages to be awarded, then Square Enix likely has the ability to swoop in and come after Nintendo for the same sort of thing. And as I said, there are probably other games as well who used a similar game mechanic prior to 96, but the thing is, Nintendo obviously knows all of this. They are clearly aware that this claim is not going to work. All of these patents that they're throwing out there, for example, using flying mounts to ride around in a game, that is something that a ton of games have used for decades now, and it is such a basic concept that I don't see any way that Nintendo can lay claim over it with a straight face. At this point, why not patent the idea of characters just walking around in a game? Or why not patent tying a character's actions to pressing buttons on a controller? Why don't they patent that? It doesn't matter that they didn't do it first, apparently. The rules are going out the window here. And in fact, as we covered a few months ago, Nintendo even changed one of their patents right in the middle of this lawsuit, signaling that they are scrambling to try to find any legal footing with this lawsuit. But the more that I read about this, and I see all of the shit that they're throwing at the wall just to see what sticks, the more convinced I am becoming that the purpose of this entire lawsuit is not to win it. Obviously, Nintendo would love to win the suit and shut down their competition, so obviously they are going to try to achieve victory, but that isn't the real purpose here. The real motive, I suspect, is that Nintendo is a juggernaut that is trying to push around Pocket Pair, which is a much smaller company with only about 60 employees. Nintendo can afford to pay attorneys and go to war with their foes from now until doomsday, but for a much smaller company who is being forced to halt some of their activities while they wait for this case to be judged, and who is being forced to change things in their game while they wait for this case to be judged, for them, for Pocket Pair, this can be extremely devastating. The process is the punishment here. Palworld is essentially getting suffocated by Nintendo and the courts here, and I expect that Nintendo's ultimate goal is to make this thing draw out for years and years. Meanwhile, Pocket Pair will likely struggle to release another game in that time frame, with the courts issuing cease and desist orders, and they will be bled out of their resources. This is devious as hell, but it is very common when someone very rich butts head against someone much less financially well off. Hopefully, Pocket Pair has the funds to fight this for an extended period of time. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your contempt for Nintendo's behavior into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.